WA have just over 20 regional newspapers, all the way from Kununurra in the north, right down throughout the southwest and down to Albany. So those papers, while their reporting staffs are local in all those towns, including sort of a lot of one reported towns, particularly through the wheat belt. Those papers are all produced out of here, so sub-edited out of here, printed at the plant just across the car park and sent out across the state from here. So we do all of that out of here. I'm responsible for the West and the West website, and I oversee those regional papers. So there's six regional editors who look after groups of papers. I oversee that. We also have a small team that we've just started here in Perth that distribute sort of content to our regional papers from out of this newsroom. So this newsroom's been operating in this form since 2015. Channel 7 moved in with us at the beginning of 2009. Sorry.
That's all right.
So Channel 7 moved in here in February 2015, and there was a fairly lengthy lead up to that process, and we sort of worked out how we were going to operate in the newsroom. What you see in the centre where those banks of TVs are, and we can walk down and have a look through there. It's just easier that we do all the talking bit here. But it's the central desk, which we call the super desk. So you have all the senior people who are in charge of news gathering for the printed product, the websites, and TV, all sitting together, working together, and cooperating across the day. These guys obviously have to put out their news bulletins. We have to put out a website all day, and we have to put out a printed product at night, but we work together, we understand what each other are doing, we help out along the way. Channel 7 journos file for our website. There's content made by them, video content that appears on our website. They'll sometimes write for the paper, and newspaper reporters have appeared on TV, help out in that process as well. So we're integrated to a point, and we cooperate across the room pretty well. I wouldn't say that we don't have a situation where everyone's doing everything. We sort of, it doesn't really work. It's a pretty specialised thing, putting a TV bulletin to air. It's a pretty specialised thing doing a newspaper. A TV reporter who's doing a story for the night's news, it takes them their day's work. They will often write stuff for us along the way as well. But that's sort of how the room generally works. As I said, we still, unlike some other companies, we still sub all of our stories here in this newsroom. We haven't outsourced the day-to-day subbing of our products. I guess we've got this a certain scale because we have those regional products that we look after as well. 7 West WA, apart from what happens and comes out of this room, also owns a series of regional radio stations, and there's news bulletins for those that are done out of here. And we are a 50% owner in the community news group with Newsspeak. When 7 West bought Sunday Times, going back a couple of years, or not quite a couple of years, that came with the Perth Now website. We also have an ongoing deal with News Corporation where we can access their content that they produce for their daily newspapers in the eastern states. So it's like a news service for us. So we selectively can choose from all the content that comes out of those News Corp tabloids in the eastern states, not the Australian. And we can use that across our products here in WA. So we have that as another source of content. We don't have any, apart from a footy writer in Melbourne, we don't have any bureau people. We don't have any people working directly for us in any of the other states, apart from Canberra. where we've got 4 full-time staff working in our bureau out of Canberra. Look, that's kind of a pretty good rundown of what we do, and Peps can probably talk about journalism students. You're interested in pathways into a place like this, something you might want to work in a newsroom like this. Generally, the pathway here is through our regional papers. It's hard to come in straight from being a student into this room, but we do take students into our regional papers, and we train through the regions and move them in here. I'm trying to create a better pathway for the people in the regions to get into this room. We've had a number who have come in from the regions. And we've got a couple more positions opened up recently, and I'm trying to get people from the region so that we can create that pathway, and that allows more people to start in the region. We get a bit of a feeder system going like that. So that's kind of how we operate in that way. That's probably it from me.
Well, if you're all sort of nearing the end of your degrees and you are looking at a job in journalism, this is, if you want to stay in this town, this is probably one of the places to be. It's like Brett alluded to, it's got a bit of everything in it. Like Brett mentioned, it's the biggest newsroom in the Southern Hemisphere. And it can actually be really exciting sometimes when Brett talks about the sushi desk in the middle there, behind the bank of TVs, and when something's breaking, it's, like I say, a very exciting place to be. And one of the stories we often tell is, probably about 12 months ago, Dale O'Neill, our Chief of Staff, the guy standing up over there, he stood up bolt upright on the phone and went, shark attack, right next to shark attack. And you just feel the excitement. Yeah, so bottom floor on the right, we've got a virtual set, which is basically the desk that you see the newsreaders on. Newsreaders sit there. The background is just a green virtual set. We can basically put anything over it. We're actually considering just jazzing up how our news looks a little bit at the moment. The cameras that are on the floor in the studio are all robotic, so there's no one else on the studio floor apart from the readers and an auto cue operator. Those remote or robotic cameras are operated in a room next door called the control room, and it's all computer programmed. So we actually have to program our bulletin with all these little squares called chiclets, and that tells the robotic cameras, the lights, the microphones what to do. And we had some fun over the past 3 odd years when we moved in trying to get our head around that system, because it was very, very difficult. So we had robotic cameras crashing into things and lights going off, and it was at times a nightmare, but we think we've wrapped our head around it. Just behind this wall here, when you do go for a walk, that's our ingest section and our ops section. They're in charge of taking all the material in via satellite around the country, around the world, and also sending out our cut material to the network so they can get it to air. And then behind those 2 rooms are our individual edit suites. They're the editors basically stitch together pictures and make the stories or promos. Tonight's over there. They're on air after us, so their editors will be pretty busy just making sure things are cut. They're still cutting while we're on air.
Is there a studio up here, or is it also?
No, we all share the same stuff down there. So the transition can be very tight. This morning in the Eastern States, that's Basil, everyone, you may or may not have seen, and perhaps you might be a little bit overexposed. But we had an interesting situation this morning where we had the leadership spill in Canberra. We normally take Sunrise on a delay. Half that stuff was out of date. We do our local Sunrise inserts, and we went, right, what do we do? We toyed with the idea of taking Sunrise live. The problem is once Sunrise Live ends, we've got a 3-hour gap or a 2-hour gap or whatever afterwards, and we can't easily fill it with something else because the studio in Sydney is then used for the morning show. So that was fun. We had a few arguments, got yelled out a bit, but that's life. We'll figure it out in the future. That's about it up here. Any questions for Brett or myself?
I'll ask a quick one while the students contemplate. Obviously this was a really interesting concept, and there's a couple of places around the world that have copied that attempt to try and bring all the platforms together in one room. It was 2015, so in 3 years, what's the biggest lesson you think you've learned, either good or bad, about how that works? Because you mentioned a couple of positives and negatives. Do you have an overall kind of sense of what's worked and what hasn't?
Look, I think if we've learned anything, it's that What I reckon that we learned as two different groups or two different sort of journalistic cultures coming together was that there's as many similarities as there are differences, but that and that I think a real respect grew between the print guys and the TV guys and vice versa that maybe wasn't quite there at the start.
It was a bit Jets and Sharks when they came in.
So I think that when it all first started, there was a bit of suspicion, and I think the print guys thought that TV was about putting on makeup and hairspray, and it was all pretty easy, and the TV guys probably thought our guys just sort of sat around in here all day. But I think both sides have gained a much better understanding of the pressures and the sort of stuff that goes into what each other do, and I think that's been really good. There's been and look, there's been a heap of crossover and learning on both sides, and I think that's probably one of the great positives is that journalists right across the spectrum, from young people to senior people, right up to people at our level, have learned a whole lot of stuff about the different ways that we go about doing stuff. I know a lot more about TV now than I've ever known, and these guys know more about newspapers and websites. I think that's been a real positive.
In that simplistic sense, you think you're making better journos? I think it is making them better.
Yeah, I think
will make them better.
I think it is. I think it probably already has.
We've got a lot of young journos that can sit in a smaller office and just bounce off each other, and the opportunities they've got here to learn from some real gents in the print industry or the online space gives them the opportunity to learn a lot more, a lot quicker. But yeah, it is still a work in progress, and one of the things we need to continuously be conscious of is our audience. We don't want to churn out the same stuff all the time, because otherwise they won't buy the paper and watch the news and consume what's online. So that's something I think we constantly sort of argue with ourselves about. So, yeah.
How important is it to you that your journos can film and edit their own packages?
They don't actually edit their own packages. In inverted commas, the model is changing all the time. GWN, ABC, some of these people should cut their own things, and they do a fantastic job. But you got to ask yourself the question: what suffers if you're doing everything? It might be the way of the future. If there's no money in the industry, well, that's a model that'll be rolled out more. But the good thing about Channel 7 is we've got some absolute gun camera operators. I've got one bloke who's been in the industry for 40-something years, and he can shoot anything from a flower show to September 11, and pretty hard to replicate that. Someone like me who's never picked up a camera. Same thing. We've got editors over there. We've got graphic artists over there. You'd be a fool to suggest quality wouldn't suffer if you're rolling all those responsibilities into one person. That said, it does need to happen in some newsrooms because of the economy. So.
You mentioned briefly the heart attack. What impact on the floor did the gaff incident have across all parts of the division? What sort of impact was that for you guys, and how did it go across the floor?
Well, I wasn't in that day. It was
Sunday.
I know that the second
the following week, the rollout during the week.
Oh yeah, look, it was a conversation I think the city was having with itself about the incident, about the derby. Didn't matter which side you follow, you had an opinion of it. So we tried to cater sort of for all those sides. We copped a bit of criticism in terms of how hard we went. Basil's interview with Adam Simpson live on the Monday, the day after, generated a lot of criticism on social media, but we stand by it. As we say, news is a reflection of the conversation the city's having. So tonight we've promoted Ross Lyon, our live and exclusive interview with Ross Lyon on whether he deserves to stay in that job. So we try to send the message that it doesn't matter who you are, we're still going to ask the hard questions. So, yeah.
I think some people got in their heads that we were somehow having a go at Gaff, and Gaff was not. It wasn't about that. A lot of the criticism that arose afterwards was the way that the club went about handling the fallout from it all right now.
And that wasn't isolated either. That was in the context of a senior official putting his hands on a camera person, which is a no-no. And the way that was or wasn't handled by the club often. So,
people's relationship with sport is just bizarre when it comes to their relationship with politics or the economy. The rationality just goes out the window.
Yeah, so you can show a shot of
so you're always going to cop something on
Iraqi
social
getting
media.
blown up and less people care than say something.
Right, yeah, the one absolute that I know is that on the days after that, for about 3 days after that, we sold in the thousands more newspapers each day, and we had the biggest few days of online traffic that we've had for a very long time. In fact, I think it was a record number of video views of that. So that incident and the video views that went around that on the websites over the first hour, there were 20,000 views of the video in the first hour of it, and I think over a few days it was viewed by 300,000 to 400,000 times on the west.com.au.
You had a lot of sport front pages. The famous, of course, when Rupert Murdoch's in Australia, all the News Corp front pages have an animal on them because they know that Rupert loves an animal on the front page. Do you find there's a definite difference in sales if you're leading with a sports, particularly something to do with the Derby?
Yeah. Newspaper sales aren't sort of up and down as much as they're fairly steady. I mean, we sell, a lot of our sales is around, we print so many papers, so there's only so many we
There's a million copies that go out every day.
But,
do you guys feel that social media benefits you guys with all like the viewing and all of that on your website and all
so
of
social
that?
media, we use social media to bring traffic to our website. That's our main use.
And does that benefit
so
you?
as a branding tool, but also as a tool to bring people to the website.
Yeah.
I think it's about more than half of our traffic comes to our website from Facebook, directly from Facebook.
We need to be careful. If we put too much out there on social media, there's less reason for people to watch.
Yeah, I
so
was going
it
to
needs
say.
to be done a certain way. It needs to be done in a way that teases the audience to still want to watch. So the gap vision, it's already out there. So we've got to promote during the day an extra element, another reason for people to watch because they've already seen it. So,
Is it a bit hard with social media for people to actually watch the 6 o'clock news later on in the night if they've already got the information
Oh
later
yeah,
on?
definitely. I mean, it makes it easier for journos too in a lot of ways. Back when I was on the road, I was on the crime round briefly, and if you wanted a photo of a coward punch attack, you had to knock on the family door through the tears trying to get a photo. Now everyone's already put their lives out on social media for the past decade. You just go there and get it. So there's pros and cons. It's much easier to track down people don't know all those sorts of things. But yeah, we do need to be careful because of, video views are really important. Often those videos are already out there. We can't just say, story behind this picture because people have already got it. We need to constantly reinvent how creative we're being in terms of evaluating what people already have seen or can get.
Sorry. Yeah, good. For both of you, I'm just wondering, the younger journalists that do come in, what are the kind of things that impress you and what makes someone stand out when they're just starting?
I think a lot of it comes down to enthusiasm and interest in journalism and storytelling, and you got to have that real curiosity to want to find out what's going on in whatever you're looking at. And I think the other thing that I think is really important, and it's really easy to tell whether this is the case or not, is whether you read lots of different journalism, whether it's read, whether it's in print or online, or it's pretty easy to quickly understand how deep your knowledge is of stuff with a few quick questions. So that is really important. I think if you read a lot of other journalism, and I'm not just saying papers that are produced here in Western Australia, you should be across, and it's very easy to be. When I started as a cadet, we had to go to a news agency in the city and buy the interstate newspapers that were sold out of one place and I was from Brisbane. So if you wanted to see the Sydney Morning Herald or the Age, you had to go to this one news agency in the city, and it was the only place you could buy it. But it's easy for you guys. You can look at all these things online. You can read a whole lot of different journalists and read the sort of stuff that they're doing and see what they're doing for the stuff and that. That improves your journalism more than anything, I reckon.
I think it's been, so far as TV, there's a bit of misunderstanding. People think it's about a look or how you stand or how you present yourself that pick up what Brett says. It's about attitude. You know, you've got to have a balance between being resilient and being flexible, and you can often learn a lot of the other things around there. You can change your look, you can, you know, we've got stylists that help people with that, but it's your attitude. We get people knocking on the door all the time for work. It's the attitude that makes you stand for.
I think, you know, from my observation of the TV side of things, and not just since these guys came in here, but you know, past connections to the TV industry, is that anyone who comes into it in a news sense that thinks they're coming into some sort of glamorous industry is just going to get the shock of their lives after a reasonably short amount of time. That'd be a fair comment with the Coops. I think, you know, that the idea that you know, going hard after stories every day for a 6 p.m. news bulletin against fairly fierce competition is not an easy job. It's a tough gig, and these guys, you know, are out doing that every day. I think it's the idea that it's a glamorous thing is just not reality at all.
I think journalism in general, in any media, to do it well is hard. Yeah, lots of people can do it sort of averagely, but to do it well, to write really well, to dig, to build your context is hard. So there's no shame in finding it hard. You know, you definitely be starting. And you have to do, and you have to come back tomorrow and do it again. Do that every day.
I wanted to ask you, you said the money's running out, but how do you see the industry changing in the future? How, like in terms of content and technique and social media?
I don't think the money's running out. I just think it's the way it ends up in here and what we do with it is changing. So there'll always be a need and an appetite for what we do. And people want good stories told, they want exclusive material or, you know, exclusive content, pictures, whatever it is. I think getting back to social media and the internet, people are starting to realise there's a lot of crap out there. You know, people talk about bloggers and this sort of stuff, and eventually I think they're going to start realising that, you know, you're going to have to pay for proper journalism. So that's what we need to figure out, I think, as an industry at the moment. But yeah, because the economics are changing, it's changing what we do. We mentioned, you know, people just shoot and cut their own stuff. There's some examples, I think, of how things will change. You know, Nines just bought Fairfax. They're examples again of how it's all changing.
I reckon that rather than thinking about focusing on what is going to change, because change will continue, you know, and it won't change. I've been doing it for over 30 years, and there's been a lot of change in that period of time, and it will keep changing. The one thing, and there's a number of them, but the really important thing that won't change is that it's important to have people who are able to find and tell stories, and you're going to have, you know, there will be ways of telling a story on a platform or however that haven't even been invented yet. You know, there'll be, but it's sort of like there's not much point worrying about that. People will be trained how to, you know, do those things. The most important bit is getting the story in the first place, and that's the real skill. You know, all the other bits is just being trained how to put it on this platform or that platform, or do a piece to camera, or put your voice down, or, you know, write a headline. All that's training, and that'll change and evolve, and you'll get, you know, have to learn new stuff as you go through. But how to find a story, understand what a story is, have a good, you know, have a news sense, work out what is a story and what isn't, and work out how to get to the truth, or the best available version of the truth by the time you've got to, you know, publish it. They're the things that really count in the long term. I always said to, you know, people in here for years, you know, don't worry, because people go, oh, you know, all this digital stuff and that stuff. And I go, well, we don't even get to that point until we've got stories to put there. You know, we'll work out how to get it, and we'll work out how to publish them. We've been doing that for years. Get the story, most important thing. Go after and find and get the story. And you know, there've got to be stories that are important to the readership or the viewership or the people that you're making them for. there's no point sort of being off on this, finding and making stories that are of interest to one person, it's yourself, and that no one else will
Want to
hear.
share, but so you can have a détente drink across the two platforms. And thank you very much for taking the time with us. So unbranded Journo Club wine, I know. I hope it tastes nice. If not, it's their fault.
Excellent.
We like the lead.
Good luck, everyone.
Yeah, good luck.
Thanks for taking the time.
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah,
It's the
good.
best job in the world. So.
Thanks,
Okay.
guys. Right, cheers.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Now, where are you going now?
I'll give him a quick tour of
Yeah,
upstairs,
come
get a
through
photo
there.
of 7 News and get some
Yeah,
pieces.
come to us. It's kind of